Hey guys, Brennan here today. Today I want to share with you something that I've learned over time that I think you're going to find to be really valuable. And I think with this, I think I would have been able to read so many more books over time if I would have known this earlier. But I kind of had to learn this over time, kind of going the hard way, trying to do different things, and tried to try all these different things. And ultimately I've come to this, which I truly believe is going to help you greatly get through so many more books. So right now, I am on progress to read over 400 books this year. And how is that even possible? So the first thing you're going to want to do is you want to make sure you're picking up a book that is full of tons of pictures, okay? No, I'm just kidding. That's just a joke. No, so actually, the very first thing you're going to want to do is actually to not read at all. So that sounds like, what? What are you talking about? How am I supposed to get through a book if I can't even read it? See, that's the flaw in itself. Now, I get it that some people like to read over maybe listen, but I'm telling you, you can get through things so much faster by listening. So what do I mean by listening? So there's things such as what you've probably more than aware of are called audiobooks. And audiobooks are, of course, same book and everything, except it's just read to you. And I know some people might say, hey, sometimes depending on how quickly that's read to you, that can be even sometimes slower in some cases, depending on the size of the book and all this and that. I'd say it depends. However, here's a way to get around that I've learned, which is, and for most scenarios when it comes to when you're listening to audiobooks, you can actually increase the speed for how fast you're listening to it. Now, it's not to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even keep up to it. But what I've noticed is you can I've noticed for most people that read the books to me, the different authors or whatnot, you can times that by about 2. What does that mean? Basically what that means is you can get through that book twice as fast, meaning listening to it. So let's say it has a reading time length of, let's just say, 6 hours. If you're just able to double up that speed of when you're listening to it by 2, which is again pretty common, meaning you can still listen to it and you shouldn't have any issues listening to it at that speed, at least most people, probably not, then you can get through that book in 3 hours. Now that same 300-page book, can you do that in 3 hours consistently? Probably not. And what's great about this method is, at least in my experience, when I come to actually literally reading books, I probably can't sit more for an hour. Now, I get it. If you maybe are reading a great book, you love it, maybe you can sit longer than I can. But personally, my brain just goes, like it just needs a break. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I find that me trying to get motivation again in order to read that book again in the same day, it goes down and down really fast throughout the day. So instead, what I've personally found is audiobooks, where if I need to take a break, I can take that break, and it's not as much I don't need as much motivation to go right back to it. So I've really find certain parts of the day to be like certain places where I can fit in that audiobook. So let me give you some examples. So I try to work out at least 5 to 6 times a week, and that's something that I've personally been working on. I can't say I'm always perfect at that, but that's just something I'm personally working on right now. And in that time of when I'm working out, I want to be listening to an audiobook. Now, that's maybe easier said than done for some people, because maybe they're like, oh, I don't want to quote unquote multitask or anything of that sort. I wouldn't even call it per se multitasking. I would actually say it's like kind of like saying, are you multitasking when you are going to the gym and you're listening to music? People would be like, no, I'm listening to it, but I'm also still doing the workout. And that's kind of what I'd say too when it comes to the audiobook, which is you're still doing the workout and you're also still listening to it too. It's just that you happen to be doing that at the same time. It's not as difficult as you might think. However, try doing the same thing of literally reading a book and working out. Good luck. You're just not going to be able to make that happen. Otherwise, if you do try that, you're either going to get through the book and you're not going to work out at all, or you're going to work out and not at all get through the book. Instead, I try to find ways and where I can fit in this time of like the education of like being able to read a book a day, find in these little gaps that otherwise would have been wasted. So I do it during workouts. If you do commute to, say, maybe a job, that is also a fantastic time to get into that as far as like when it comes to listening to that audiobook. So you can do that on the commutes to and back from work right there, depending on the length of how long that commute is. There you go. And then on top of that too, any errands maybe you have to run during the day as well. There's something you could do too. Something that I've learned as well is I try not to do too much of any task without trying to have some kind of positive ROI to it, meaning return on investment. So let me give you an example. Right now, as the house that you see behind me, I recently somewhat recently at least, bought this house, and there's some repairs and things of that sort that have to get done. I've hired some people to do some of that work, and I've also been doing some of that work myself. Now, that stuff that I've been doing myself, what I've been doing is I just put on some headphones and I've then been listening to the audiobooks there. And you'd be again surprised just how quickly you can get through that. Like if you're saying you're working on this some kind of task, so if I'm working on a task that can easily last 3+ hours, meaning I can get through most audiobooks in that time. And on top of that, if then I'm working out in the morning, so maybe that's an hour's worth of audio that's done right there, right in the morning or whenever you'd work out. So what I'm saying is, in order to fit an audiobook in the day, like to get it done, it's actually so much easier than you think. And what's really cool about that, in my opinion, is there's some kind of study or whatnot. You can look it up yourself, but I've heard from multiple different people, including books too, that the average CEO reads around 52 books a year. And why does that matter? It matters because CEOs got there for a reason. Now, not really many. Now, there could be some like, oh, they're part of the family, blah, 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 as far as whoever runs the company. But my point is they're not stupid people. And there's so much to be learned. And from learning from other people that have been there before you, just got to keep in mind just how valuable that truly is being able to take someone's wisdom that they've learned over a lifetime and be able to really soak up that information within just hours of time that you can get done in a day. So just imagine the average person, I know this is another study that was done, that was I think the average person reads maybe 1 to 2 books a year, if that. And think about if you're able to read 65 books a year. You're literally, according to averages or according to that statistic, you're 365 years ahead of people in that category. Think how much power there is to that in knowing all that knowledge. So this is something that I've personally done. Now, the other strategies that I've seen other people do too is oh, you can't read a book a day, so here's a book summary. And I think that's something, if you are gonna have a crazy busy day, you can't fit something in, I think that's something that you can do too. A really great app that you can get is called Blinkist. I have it, and basically that app allows you to hear book summaries that can typically be read to you within 10 to 15 minutes. So there's tons of different titles and stuff on that, and a lot of that's personal development books and all kinds of other books of that sort. But basically, it can be read to you in 10 to 15 minutes. You can get a lot of the big key points, and there's definitely some value into that. But also, I feel like audiobooks, that's going to give you the most core information as far as that's still reading a whole book, but instead you're actually going to be able to listen to it and probably retain the information better. I'll actually throw up some kind of chart here if you can see it, but basically it shows that people retain stuff that they listen to better than they actually read it. So my point to saying that is you're actually better off listening to it instead of reading it in the first place. So those are some of my tips for you and how to read a book a day. In fact, in this scenario, you can actually probably get through more than even 1 book a day if you are really dedicated to it. Just to give you an example, yesterday I went through a total of 3 books, and that was done through the audiobooks. So it's about being able to work smarter here, not work harder. So don't think you have to be sitting on a couch, a chair, on the floor, wherever your spot is to read, and you have to be there for 15 hours in the day to get through a book. There's a lot better ways to get through it and get that information and ultimately obtain and absorb that information too. So if this video was helpful to you at all, please feel free to give it a like, hugely appreciated, and also please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you like this information. Really different things to help you become a better person over time and then ultimately have a better life. And also too, I share my journey of selling my products on Amazon too. So if you're interested in learning about Amazon FBA, business, things of that sort, definitely subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to let me know, and I'm more than happy to get back to you. Anyways, thanks so much you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.